I'm sorry.
I've been doing, I think this is my 4th podcast I did today.
Jesus Christ.
Well, when you tweet out that you'll do anybody's podcast, people really take you up on it.
I didn't even see that tweet. I just did it out of I guess blind faith.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I did a tweet that I said I'll do any podcast or something, and then got to be a man of my word.
Damn. Well, you should have just said no, and I would have been like, well, that guy's too cool for me.
No, it's fine. I mean, I meant it. I haven't been, I want to promote my podcast and it's like, well, I'll just do other people's podcasts. Well, and it hasn't been too bad. I mean, even though it's been like nonstop for the past 3.5 hours, but
I'm glad I'm getting you right at your peak. You got to warm up with all those chumps before me, and now
yeah, those were all just like warm up. It's like the stretching before running a mile or whatever.
Hey, hi, hello, it's the Jesse LaSala show.
Hey, you know what? Let me go take a leak first.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right, I'll be right back. Hey, sorry, man.
All right. Sound like a good hard piss.
You couldn't hear that?
No.
It's like fucking way in the back.
Hey, hi, hello. It's the Jesse LaSala Show, episode 36, Thursday, March 25th, 2021. My guest today, comedian, podcast host, and father, Mr. Brendon B-Man Walsh. How say you, sir?
Hey, it's the B-Man. Hey, let me see if, can you hear this?
Oh, shit. Yes.
Oh, shit, my soundboard works.
That is, okay, so that is one of the most impressive parts of all the podcasts are the sound effects. It ties everything together. I'm working on my little setup here, but good Lord.
Well, I got, I don't know what this is called. TM Soft sound effects. You can make your own. It's a free soundboard. You can put it on there. Wait, are you there now? Maybe I fucked it up. Oh, okay. I won't fuck with the soundboard.
No. Do it when you feel it's necessary. I trust your judgment. So, look.
All right, I'll stop.
No, I need the one.
Get started.
What is the breaking? Not the breaking news. The one.
Oh, breaking news.
Oh no, extra.
Oh.
So I met Mr. Brendon Walsh back in Houston over 10 years ago. You don't remember
What's
this?
that?
I met you in Houston about 10, maybe more years ago. I think you were touring with Rogan and Diaz.
I did shows with Rogan. About probably 2012-ish. It's probably, sounds about right.
So my dumbass, okay, I hadn't really heard of you yet. No offense. But I was just starting to get into comedy. And I came up to you and I recognized who you were, but for some reason I thought that Neil Brennan and Brendon Walsh were the same person. And so I came up and I was like, oh man, nice to meet you. Oh, the brains behind the Chappelle Show. And you were like, oh, no, I think that's Neil Brennan you're talking about. I was like, oh. And then, like, I wanted to crawl out of my asshole and just, leave the entire premises. But then, like, two girls came up and started talking to you. So I just, like, I started, like, walking away. And I was like, okay, thank God. But, yeah, it was then that I started watching the Bone Zone. I mean, look, we would have people over, not necessarily to watch the Bone Zone, but if it was like a Thursday night, I think that's when y'all did it, and we would just like shut everybody up that was there that wasn't familiar with it. And if they started asking questions, we'd be like, look, y'all gotta shut up. Y'all gotta like just leave. If you're not gonna watch, just fucking leave. And of course, it was always the episode where y'all would just be starting to make all these random noises. And then eventually we got some people on board and we got them to start calling in. And I think you remember Chelsea. Like, she called you a few times, and it was just like, we were doing the Terry Hulk Hogan stuff. Like, dude.
So this is early. This is when we were doing video with Red Band.
Yes.
That's back. I mean, I don't remember Chelsea. That's all such a fucking lifetime ago.
I would imagine so. I mean, those were some long episodes, and yeah, years ago.
Yeah, we did it. I don't know how long we did it with Red Band, and then just kind of moved to our own thing. Mainly because it was just kind of taking a while for Red Band. Red Band, that was like back when Brian had like, he was doing like 20 podcasts a day in that fucking room. And, we would record an episode and I'd be like, when is that episode coming out? He'd be like, oh, it'll be like, it was taking, I think it took like 3 weeks to put an episode out once. Jesus. And we were just like, I could be wrong, but I remember it wasn't like a, there was no drama really with us leaving Brian doing it besides the, just not having control over when things came out.
Yeah, I totally understand that because it's like, you kind of want to hear it. Like, as soon as you're done, my experience, I kind of like to hear it afterwards just to be like, oh, man, did I mess it up? But I edit my own shit now, so it's, it's... But having the angst of 3 weeks and not being able to hear it, and then by then you've already recorded another one probably...
Yeah, probably like 2 or 3 more. I think we were going in every week. But he was doing way too much. And, so we started doing it on our own. It was probably within the first year, although those videos, the Bone Zone was like the best comedy podcast ever produced. Hey, there you go. And even like going back, like some of the stuff we did should have been, everything, the fact that while it was on, it never got any attention is kind of appalling, but that's just the way it goes for me. Nobody gives a shit about anything I do. But I was thinking about it recently because the Reddit, there's still a fairly active Reddit board for the Bone Zone.
Yeah.
Because even though it's been done for over 3 years now, people are still discovering it because it is like, we did it for 7 years or 6 years and it was like fucking great.
Yeah.
And some of that shit we did with Red Band at the beginning, like when Davey died, I was thinking about that recently and was like, God, that was like one of the best, like long form. Cause like I'm a fan and I'm friends with like Tim Heidecker and Greg Turkington. And I don't know if you are familiar, if you are into the whole On Cinema.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Universe he's created. And that's always been like, that's very enviable to me. I'm like, that's what we were doing with the Bone Zone. And the fact that the Bone Zone was still pretty new and it was still like pretty, Twitter was still pretty new. And like, it was just the timing of it all. Because Davey, I think was like, maybe in a TV, no, he's probably doing commercials. I don't know. He was like busy for a few weeks or something.
Yeah,
and it just kind of turned into a bit.
He was in Burger King commercials and shit.
Yeah, I mean, I still see him in commercials and stuff. But he, like, either way, he didn't do the podcast for a couple weeks, and then we just kind of turned it into a thing where it's like, oh, Davey's not doing well. We would, like, mention it on the podcast, but kind of glean over it. And then, like, on Twitter, it would be like, you know, Davey would tweet, like, this is Davey's sister, Davey's not doing well, whatever. And then that episode that Randy and I were on, and then Davey's quote-unquote sister shows up to tell us that he died, and his twin brother's parking the car, and then his twin brother comes in, and it's Davey with, like, you know, a fat suit and a fake mustache or whatever. And Davey's a great actor too, so right. Like, it really, like, sold. We really sold it. And then the way the podcast progressed, like, we stop it, and I remember I put, like, ice on my eyes to make my eyes all red and watery, and it really looked like we were, like, crying. And we came back to, like, celebrate Davey's life, and then we're just drinking whiskey, and then I start hitting on his sister, and then we make Davey's twin brother shave his mustache and, like, become Dave. Like, it was just such a perfectly beautiful thing that nobody outside of, like, you and a few dozen other people could really appreciate.
Well, give yourself more credit. I mean, there was a lot of people that were, as you spoke to, the Reddit, I mean, it's still going, and I mean, there were layers to every episode. Like, there were super callbacks, and just, you know, it was it should have been like an Adult Swim show, except, you know, they're only 15 minutes long or whatever. But I mean, that was easily, like, the highlight of my week for, like, a few years there. It was just like, oh my God, I gotta go watch the Bone Zone. And
thanks.
And then y'all turned it into the Home Zone, and y'all had sleepovers and shit. I mean, it was wild.
Yeah, the sleepovers, yeah. Well, I think we only did that once at my old apartment, where we all had pajamas. And
all matching
pajamas. I bought that dick that squirts stuff out of it. Just squirting Diet Pepsi into Davey's mouth through the dick.
So where are all those episodes? Do you even own any of them?
I don't know. I have a guy a while back, like, I realized, I was like, I don't have these all, like, I mean, they're on SoundCloud or whatever, and whatever. I think, I don't even know if, like, those Red Band ones are, I mean, people saved them. So there's a guy who sent me, like, a flash drive that supposedly has all the episodes on it, but I never checked to make sure it works. It's just in a drawer in my desk that just says all the Bone Zone episodes on a piece of Post-it note.
Jesus, man, you got to do the fans a favor and get those out there. I mean, I would put those on.
Well, they're out there. I mean, all of them are out there, with the exception of maybe the Death Squad ones, which maybe are, like, I don't know how many of the Death Squad ones, maybe 30 of them or so. And then that's when we started moving away, because Brian wasn't putting them out. We just didn't have any control over it, and not even dramatic of, like, you know, we don't have any control over our show. It's just like, we want to be able to record things and release them as we want to, not be, you know, 17th in line behind a porno star. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Anytime I would watch one of the Death Squad podcasts, and it was like they were intruding on y'all's studio. It was, like, weird to see other people in there. I was like, oh, y'all got to get the fuck out of here. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, man, it was a good, you know, it was a great podcast, and, you know, I still stand behind it. Like, it's every time, like, I will go on to, you know, late at night when I'm just up and bored and dicking around, I'll go on the Reddit board, and people will post, like, what was the episode where this happened or whatever, and then I'll go and look at the link, and people have compiled, like, crank calls and Dave Grohl stuff, and And I'm like, I'll listen to them. Like somebody posted a Mark Proksch episode, and I put it on, like, I was like, oh, let me just listen to some of this, and wound up listening to maybe, I don't know if I listened to the whole thing, but like, I mean, I was laughing so hard at, just like, God, it was so good. And, like I'm a pretty harsh critic, especially of my own stuff, but that was just like perfect timing, like everything about it, like synced up. It just worked so well.
Yeah.
It's a shame that,
well,
no, but people are still discovering it. Like I'll go, sometimes on Reddit, I'll go on and people are like, I just discovered the bone. So like, what's and I'll look at the, cause I still have the SoundCloud, access to all that. And I see how many people are downloading it every week. And I'm like, wow, this is like, this many people weren't listening to it when it was on.
Right. Well, this leads me to my next question, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but what the hell happened with you and Randy?
I mean, I've addressed it a bunch. It's like, I don't know. Randy didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought.
I don't know. I never really got to the bottom of, the person, I don't know. Randy turned into like a different guy that I started the podcast with. And he has a problem with me. I don't know what it is, and I don't know where the turning point was, but, things kind of soured. Even if you listen to the last handful of episodes, there was definitely a tension. And I don't, we did that for 6 years or more. We did a bunch of other stuff together. So we would go through phases of like hating each other, just in the sense of like, just when you're around somebody all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it would pass. And I thought that's what was going on towards the end. But then it became apparent that he's not into it anymore and has, some problem with me that I don't know exactly what, I've asked him flat out, like, what the fuck's your problem with me? And he never really addressed it. And it's ancient history now. I don't care. I mean, fact of the matter is, it's done. And if I had it my way, we wouldn't have ended it when it ended or how it ended. Yeah. I was actually making 2017, I just had a kid and, we didn't have a huge fan base, but we had a very loyal fan base. And I was starting a Patreon for the podcast and would send Randy stuff like, hey, I'm doing a Patreon. What do you think of this for bonuses? And he just kind of was like, oh, I haven't had a chance to look at it. I don't know. I'll let you know. But like when all's said, and it's frustrating to me that we, did such a great thing and invested so many years of our lives into it. And then right at the precipice of like, we might be able to we never made any money on the Bone Zone. And when Patreon was just starting and I was like, hey, we should do one of these, we could maybe make, a few bucks a month. And I'm pretty, if we had kept going at this point, 4 years later, we could be making a living off of that podcast. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
we could be generating.
You had people sending you gifts, every week and, put all that money into just patting your pockets a little bit. I mean, that's well worth it.
Well, it's classic Hollywood, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis situation or whatever. Like, just one of those things where it's like, all right, well, I guess that's that.
Yeah. Well, I met him. He came down to my hometown in Lafayette, Louisiana, and did some stand-up, and we were, like, psyched. Y'all were still doing it at the time. And, he did a stand-up. He was, like, doing some drawings that he would, put up on the stage. I don't know. He was doing well, okay? And we made it known to him before the show, like, hey, man, we're big fans of the Bone Zone. This is awesome that you're here. Let's hang out after the show. So he did his set, and he came and hung out with me and my buddies. And we started talking about, oh, man, all the crank calls y'all do and everything. And he got this look over his face where it was like, yeah, Brendon sometimes takes it too far. And like he said something like, to the effect, I would say, of, like, it makes me feel uncomfortable. So then I was like, yeah, but it's funny. And he's like, yeah, I just, like he started shying off like he does. But, I mean, he was super cool, super nice, and, like, hung out with us to the point where I was like, hey, man, I got to go. Like, I used to play in a church band. So I had to wake up at 9 in the morning and go play at the organ at the church. And I was like, hey, man, I got to go. Like, he was like, oh, man, well, okay, I guess I'll see y'all later. Like, he was, like, down to hang out. But super nice guy. But that was just always something that stuck with me, that he was, like, the crank calls, like, he felt bad for, exploiting these innocent people or something, to which I say, get over it, man. It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what year that was, and I don't know when that happened. But,
probably like 2014, maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna make believe that I know what fucking makes Randy tick. So, he didn't seem to have a problem with what we were doing when we were doing it, especially around 2014. But whatever, maybe he was building up things, resentment. I don't know. But what we put out there is great, and it'll go down in history as one of the funniest podcasts ever made.
I agree. I didn't mean to rip off a Band-Aid or pick off.
No, it's not. It's people ask me about it all the time, and I'm like, I don't have any answers. The only answer is that it's done, and it's never coming back. So, the best substitute for that is the podcast that I did after, which is the Jason Segel. Do you know who Jason Segel is? Right. Which has a lot of great moments, and then the current World Record podcast, which, is like, I haven't been able to bring, like, I compare the Bone Zone fans to people who are into Bernie Sanders.
Wow.
Like, well, because, and I'm not saying that in a detrimental way. Like, I love Bernie Sanders too, and I didn't vote for fucking Joe Biden. And I didn't vote for Donald Trump either, just to fucking put that out there.
Me either.
I'm not going to be, pigeonholed into like diarrhea or vomit.
Yep.
Vote for one. But the comparison with the Bernie Sanders, people who like Bernie Sanders and the Bone Zone fans are like, they're just like, I just want the Bone Zone. I don't want an offshoot of the Bone Zone, which I get, It's like nobody's buying fucking Robert Plant's solo albums.
Yeah.
But, if you enjoy, I feel like the World Record podcast is essentially, the Bone Zone was, I'm not going to discount Randy's involvement in it. Like, we had an incredible chemistry. But sensibility wise, it's carried on through 2 more podcasts, and the sensibilities of, like, my favorite type of podcast episode that I do is one where no actual information is ever exchanged and it's all just absurd shenanigans.
Yeah. And it takes it takes your mind elsewhere where, the world is so fucked up, and it's just like, I don't have to think about anything crazy that's going on. I don't have to worry about my own death. I don't have to worry about what's going on in my personal life. I can just fucking listen and just laugh.
Well, that's what I've continued with the World Record podcast is like, we're not talking about Trump. We're not talking about fucking politics. We're not talking about COVID. It's, the B man, a guy who was an investigative journalist who uncovered a plot by the beekeepers to put mind-controlled drugs into the honey supply. And the beekeepers caught the bee man and held him down, filled his mouth with bees, sewed his mouth closed, and then he became one with the bees. And now he hosts a podcast.
Yeah.
Where they call people, like a lot of times with his girlfriend or wife or whatever you want to call her. But she just had a baby, so she hasn't been on lately. And yeah, there's a lot of comedy podcasts out there, but I don't think a lot of them are making you laugh.
Right. Yeah, they get.
Maybe they are. I shouldn't be so dismissive. Like, of course, if you watch Bert Kreischer and Bill Burr talk for an hour, they're going to be funny stories.
Yeah.
But there's so many other. Do you really need to listen to 3 comedians sitting around a table talking about comedy and how fucked up their childhood was that made them a comedian and bad gigs and it's fine. I mean, it has its place. There's a bunch of them, but I feel like there's enough of those. So I'm just going to have a podcast where I try to have fun, and I want to induce the belly laughs that people don't get after they're 10 or 12 years old.
Right.
Which, like, when you were a kid, you remember how hard you would fucking laugh at shit?
Oh, yeah. Like, bad example, but Jerky Boys, when I was, 10 years old, I thought I just discovered something huge. Like, oh, my God. They're calling.
Well, it's not a bad example. It's a perfect example.
Well, especially, yeah, whenever you're 10 and you're like, oh, this is the perfect, satiation for my juvenile sense of humor. And that hasn't left me since. Like, I still crave that, like, absurdity and just out of context. Just also, all your prank calls, they come in, like, 3 categories, I would say, where it's like you either getting a gullible person or a super nice person who apparently doesn't do anything at their job, or the cunts that are like, do you have any more questions? And they just hang up on you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like there's another category of like people who, because there is like the pat response of, I'm really busy right now. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not busy. Nobody's fucking busy ever. And, maybe if I called a fucking sandwich shop at noon, okay, right, you are busy.
Right.
But the people who aren't locked into that corporate mentality of like, has like, it's like a security guard that puts a hand over a camera that walks in the door like, oh, you can't film here. Why not? I don't know. Just because I can say that. Like the people who who are just like, I'm at my shitty job. The best people that we get are people that they're just at a job. They're not at their career. They're not at some fucking thing they care about. They're at a fucking pet store in Iowa. Like, and somebody calling and asking for like a snake that has hands or whatever. Like, that's it. Write that down. You should do that. But like that's like the level of absurd. Like we're never, like I'm a huge fan of the Jerky Boys, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm not calling places trying to wind people up. I'm not trying to get anybody pissed off or angry, and I'm not trying to fuck with people. I'm genuinely just calling people with, granted, an absurd subject, but the people that I like are the ones that aren't just like, I need to get this guy off the phone. Like the people that are just like aware that like, I don't give a, I'm fucking here all day. What do you want? A snake with hands? I mean, I don't know. Where'd you ever hear that? And then once the doors open, then you could talk to them. Like, well, what's your background? Where are you from? Oh, I grew up, like that's, not, but I feel like I've not invented, but like, it's not just crank calls. It's like creating a world of absurdity and also finding out about, like, sometimes, we find out things about people where you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like getting a free guest, when you think about it. It's like I did a series where I just called gun shops, and I was just, I would try to keep them on the line as long as possible while also trying to figure out, which gun will kill the most people and
well,
that's a terrible timing for this time, but it's they would stay on the line.
Intended, that's also triggering from when you're calling, because like on the world, have you been listening to the World Record podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Are you familiar?
Oh yeah, trust me.
Because the gun shop, like that's, I've found, you would think that Florida gun shops would be the worst places to call. But I've had Florida gun shops are some of the best phone calls we've had. Like when we had Mario Lopez on,
and
we're calling Florida gun shops. And then Tom Brady, the Tom Brady episode with Florida gun shops, where the guy directed us to a shooting range where we could take Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski down to shoot footballs out of the air. I mean, they've been the most, I'll call places in Los Angeles and like, just like grocery stores or bookstores, and people are less receptive to a crank phone call than these Florida gun shop people. Like, I mean, they're just like, the Florida gun shop people are the most laid back motherfuckers ever invented from my standpoint.
Yeah, and I like also when you're like, yeah, it's Tom Brady. Oh, cool. And you're like, oh, you're not impressed? It's like,
I mean, that does blow my mind when it is set up. Because when do you ever get a phone call from two people at the same time?
True. It's almost like an ambush.
I mean? Where it's obvious there's some technology, like it is like probably how like a phone call from Tom Brady or Bill Gates goes, where it's like, please hold the line. I'm going to be on the line because Mr. Gates is on the line, or Mr. Brady. Like, it sounds professional enough to me. I mean, I'm an idiot, but it's like for people to just be dismissive of, all right, Tom Brady. You're like, what? Wait, what? You're not like, hello, Mr. Oh, wow, this is an honor.
And
like,
also,
I mean, I get it, you're not a football fan, but it also like with The Rock, like when we had The Rock on the podcast, people were just like that one restaurant guy was like, that's one of the best fucking phone calls ever, where he's like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, wait, you're not impressed that The Rock wants to have a birthday party? No, I've spoken to him, I don't know. You're like, wait, but The Rock and Tom Brady and Magic Jackson, which is one of my favorite things, Magic Jackson, the basketball player I invented.
Yeah. Also, the fact that they don't hang up immediately, they must feel like, oh, well, who is that guy? Like some part of their psyche is like, yeah, that's Tom Brady, whatever. I'm going to be professional because I'm at my job. Like I'm not going to, fanboy out or some shit like that.
I mean, there is a balance of that, but then there's also, I guess there's people that are just like, all right, like, I mean, they're just like a blank slate in their head of, all right, I'm just gonna do this call, and I don't care. What do you have, Wayne Brady and Magic Jackson, and like, which I also, I mean, I love it. I mean, I love when people just don't hang up. Like once you say something insane and they don't hang up, you're like, okay, this could be a good call, because you can just start pushing it.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And keep it up. And all my listeners, well, all 20 of you, please go check out the World Record podcast. And also, you have to watch it. You got to put it on YouTube and watch all the editing, because that's some of the funniest part of it is where, just, I don't know who does your editing, but they're fucking geniuses.
It's a guy named Drew Brown.
Shout out Drew Brown.
Drew Brown, not Jew Brown.
Sorry. I've been drinking.
He was, when I started the podcast, though, the World Record podcast, people, because it's like, this is my third try at doing this fucking bullshit. and I love it. The Bone Zone was the highlight of my day, and Jason Segel was there's so many fucking good moments. Like, I feel like I dismiss mentally the Do You Know Jason Segel is podcast, just because it was like, even though we did it for like a year, there's like 36 episodes. That's more than like 2 years of a network TV show.
There's only 50 states though, Brendon. I mean, where were you going to go after that? You going to call Russia?
52 states.
Oh,
Alaska and Hawaii.
Forgot about those.
It was set up to only be what going into it was like, we're just going, this is a limited podcast.
Right.
It's going to only be every state. And then if we kept doing it, then maybe we would, venture into Europe or something. But obviously that imploded as well. And again, not as dramatic as the Bone Zone. It's just like scheduling and consistency just were a little too frustrating for me. But also I think I did that, as a response to the Bone Zone ending, even though Nick and I had talked about doing the Jason Segel thing.
Well, how did y'all decide on Jason Segel out of all the B-list
Well, it was
actors?
When Nick was a guest on the Bone Zone, we had an episode with Nick where I forget the way it came about, but he insinuated that everybody knows who Jason Segel is.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
And then on that episode of the Bone Zone, I said, no, nobody knows who Jason Segel is. And he was like, yeah, most people know who Jason Segel is. Either way, I might be building it up more, but that's the discussion that happened. And then on the Bone Zone, I said, I bet if we call 10 places, 8 of them don't know who Jason Segel is. And we wound up calling 10 places, and I was proven right. And after that episode, I said to Nick, like, that's a good idea for a podcast. And then I was like, we should do a side podcast from the Bone Zone of Do You Know Who Jason Segel is? And, we were still doing the Bone Zone, and it didn't happen. And then when the Bone Zone ended, I still wanted to do something, and texted Nick and was like, do you want to do that Jason Segel idea? And I was like, well, it'll just be a year. We'll just do 50 episodes or 52. Because also the, DC is in there and Christmas, but whatever. I was like, let's just do an episode a week for a year. And we started it, and then, went into it as like, we'll put a new episode out every Thursday. And we didn't adhere to that at all. Like, it was so, it just wasn't consistent, which I think that's a big key with the podcast is like every Tuesday, every Thursday, like people need to be able to count on it. And, between Nick's schedule and my schedule, and there were like cancellations, and it was nobody's fault. I mean, I think that I just, it was almost like a rebound relationship too.
Yeah.
But I mean, people mention, because that has a Reddit thing too, And people bring things up on the Bone Zone Reddit where they're like, where were the Timmy and Tommy Castle, the Twin Towers of Wrestling? And like, which episode was that on the Bone Zone? And people are like, no, that was Do You Know Who Jason Segel is?
Oh, shit.
And that was a great podcast. Like, really, like, I do feel like I dismiss it as like, yeah, it's just like this thing that I did briefly. But it's like, no, you did it for over a year. And it's funny. Like, and me and Nick's dynamic is different than Randy and I. And there's so many good fucking things. Like, there was like spaghetti sandwiches and the Secret Garden. Like, I was on this tangent of like, you know, like I get obsessed with things that I think are funny, just like dumb ideas. And there was a period where I just thought hiding and being sneaky was like funny. Like, I'm sneaky and I hide.
Yeah.
And so we did this thing like where, I don't know how we got on it, but it was Secret Garden. Like, we did a cover of Bruce Springsteen's song Secret Garden. And then we started calling like garden stores, like places like, you know, like Home Depots or Lowe's that sell trees and bushes, and we'd be like, hey, I'm having a secret garden party and we need some like bushes and vines and stuff. And they'd be like, well, what's a secret garden party? And we're like, yeah, like a secret, like, but it's going to be a secret garden where you're like doing secretive things and hiding and sneaking around. And I want to have an area where I can lay down and be covered in soil and then pop up and scare people. And like that went on for, like, I mean, going back like recently where, you know, people bring it up in World Record and Bone Zone Reddits and Discords where I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like, Do You Know Who Jason Segel is was a great podcast. Like, I dismiss it because it didn't have like tons of listeners maybe, and it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth just with the way that ended and the way the other, you know, just how it was like a rebound relationship, and then it kind of petered out because Nick was like not into it, and I mean, not to like, I don't mean not.
I
Nick.
think
I don't know.
I know what happened.
Was not.
Y'all didn't do any bropecs, and that sort of he sort of got jealous.
Bropecs. Kiss and Smell.
Yeah. Do you
Do You Know Jason Segel is a great podcast. I mean, it's a great idea where you just call places and ask them. It's a great in on a phone call where you ask people if you know who Jason Segel is, and then take it from there.
And then their coworkers start chiming in like, oh yeah, he was in that movie, that shit movie, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's the thing, and I think that's a problem with the name Jason Segel, is because it just sounds like a regular name. Like a lot of places we would call it, be like, do you know who Jason Segel is? And it'd be like, oh, is that the guy who delivered the fucking crab legs? Like, oh, wait, he used to work here, right? You're like, no. But it sounds like the name of a guy who used to work somewhere.
Yeah. Fucking jackass Jason. Jason? Do you think you're a better podcaster than you are a comedian?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Interesting. So there's hope for me, because I did stand up in New York for 5 years, and I hated it. That's all I ever wanted to do. I moved to New York to do it, and it sucked. And I don't think I sucked. I'm not just saying that to be biased, but I just hated the experience, and I'd much rather do a podcast.
Well, I mean, that question is like, well, hold on a second. I have to take a leak.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
No problem. I went and took a piss too. I beat you, so I have a stronger bladder than you, bro.
Well, no, I have to walk further. I have this office that I rent.
Oh, you went down the hallway.
Yeah, I had to go down I had to go to a place. The podcasting versus stand-up.
Yes.
I mean, I just, I think that, the podcasting versus stand-up thing, I stand behind, like, I'll go, like I said, I listen to, people on Reddit will post old clips of the Bone Zone, and I'll listen to them and laugh my ass off. I don't do that with my stand-up. I would never even listen to I wouldn't even watch, like, if it came up and said, like, oh, it's Brendon Walsh on the John Oliver stand-up show or whatever, like some thing I did. I wouldn't even watch it. Not that I hate my stand-up, but I feel like that the podcasting stuff represents me. I'm very funny in the moment, and I like things that organically unfold as opposed to, standing on stage and having a game plan.
Right.
Like all the podcasts that I've done, including the world record, the new one, is, and I struggle. Well, I don't struggle with it, but, I always feel like I could be doing more work for these things. But I also, like, if I went into an episode with a solid game plan, then that doesn't leave much room for things to organically happen.
Right.
Which is where, that's what I love, is like me surprising myself along with the audience. Like, I don't like having inside information on, like, well, I know where this is going because I have already predetermined it.
Yeah, and like I've carefully crafted my words, and you're going to laugh at it because I've spent hours on this one sentence.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, there's a certain satisfaction that comes with that, where you know what's coming. Yeah, where what you're about to say next is going to fucking put everybody on the floor. But that's like, it's a whole different, like, I mean, it's like two different professions. It's like, it's just two different skill sets. And I rather, like, I'm better at fighting my way out of things than, or I don't even want to say better or worse at anything. Like, I like letting things happen organically than, I prefer doing the podcast and just seeing where things go than already knowing where things are going to go, more or less.
Yeah. It definitely, it's more exciting, and
well, it opens up different, like, there's more possibilities. Like, with the, did you ever listen to the, do you know who Jason Segel is at all?
Yeah, like probably 30 of them.
Well, that's most of them. And one of the first episodes, it might even be the first episode, where Nick reveals that he was conceived on a waterbed. And then that led to a discussion about waterbeds, which is a fucking like, we would never have come up with that before we started talking. Like, do they still make waterbeds? Who owns waterbeds still? Are there any waterbed stores? And then we find a waterbed store. We call a place in Florida that sells waterbeds, and this guy, and the guy we talked to, his religion is waterbeds. And he's the most interesting guy in the world, and he has a failing business in Tampa, Florida. So then we put out there, anybody who buys a waterbed from this guy, send us proof that you bought a waterbed. We'll come do a show in your town and then do a podcast from your house. And, we only did it once for a guy in Vegas who bought a waterbed. And Nick and I went and did a show at, I forget the name of the bar, and then did a podcast from his house. But that whole chain of events would not have happened if I sat down with a legal pad saying, okay, first we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to call this place, and then we're going to do this.
Right.
So that's what I enjoy, like that kind of shit. And that's what, that's where the World Record podcast is too. Like that's, it's a variation of it. And there's still no, there's no game plan generally. And you wind up talking to some pretty interesting people.
I also like that none of the people you get on sound like any of the celebrities that they're impersonating. It's not like they're even trying to.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? But also people will believe it.
Exactly. That's the best part.
Well, the David Letterman was pretty spot on. I don't know if you heard that one.
Yeah. True. Okay, so I have a new segment on the show, and then I'll get you out of here. Thank you so much for being on. It's called Dumb, Stupid, Ridiculous Questions that also I would like the answers to.
Okay.
What was your first memory of sex ed? Like in school.
Yeah. I think there was I went to Catholic grade school, and I do remember a priest. Fuck, what did he say? I mean, I remember they gave out to all the girls at the end of the thing, each got like a little plastic shopping bag with drawstrings filled with tampons or something. It must have been 6th grade.
Right.
Whenever girls start perioding. And what the fuck did that priest say? He said something weird. Shit. I don't remember it. I think now that I'm thinking back, god damn, that was 30 years ago, I guess. So,
I mean, do you remember just being around your buddies and having to bite your lip to keep from laughing and, tears coming out of your eyes?
That's what I think. That's what I think the priest, because I remember the priest, this guy, Father Hickey was his name.
Wow. Spot on.
And I remember him, he's probably sucking off kids. But I think that's this memory because I remember him losing it on the class. And I think it was spurned from either me or someone else, from people making a joke.
Right.
About it, which is what you're going to do when you're fucking 12 years old.
Well, at least
I don't remember.
At least
I remember him yelling at us.
You had a priest. I mean, I think I had a science teacher, and it was just she wanted to get some extra hours or a bonus on her paycheck, and it was just this cunt science teacher that we all hate is now going to teach us about a phallic penis and an erect penis and eggs and vulva. It's terrible.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, there wasn't much sex education going on at the Catholic at St. Leo's in Philadelphia.
Damn. All right, so what is the dumbest thing you've ever done for a girl and then not gotten laid because of it?
I was at the aquarium when I was 14. It's a class trip to the aquarium. I was trying to get this girl's attention. And I laid down, I put my penis in the shark tank and the shark bit it off.
Damn, that will do it. That will knock that out. So I was at a pool hall with my fiance just a few days ago, and we're playing just by ourselves, one-on-one, and then these two assholes come up. It's a 57-year-old lady, chain smoker. And then her boy toy who's like in his early 20s, and they're like, hey, can we play doubles with y'all? And we're like, okay, fine. And so my girl's going to take a shot. You know, we're on the same team, and she's taking a shot for our team, and she's near the little boy toy college student fuck. And as she's about to take her shot, he's like, nice ass. And I'm wondering, if you were in my situation, how are you wired? Like, do you beat the shit out of this guy and go to jail, or you just leave?
I don't know, man.
Like, if I was 20, you know, I'm 35 now. I don't have time to be fighting dudes at bars. But if I was 20, I would have, like, shoved a pool stick through his trachea and ended up in jail for a stupid remark and a stupid guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a fairly explosive temper, but I also like to dress people down verbally. So I don't know. I mean, I would maybe tell him to have sex with my wife.
Just throw him off, right?
I would like maybe start harassing him. Like, well, if you really like, go ahead, grab her tits. Like, go fucking. But I mean, honestly, I would. I probably wouldn't be that smooth about it. I would maybe. I don't know.
It's tough, right?
I don't know.
It's kind of tough.
I mean, it would also depend on a lot of factors, but I think I would maybe. I mean, I definitely would try to humiliate him in some way, whether it's verbally or physically. I mean, I'm kind of at a point where I don't, like, I know, you know, a lot of guys are into MMA and shit, and I don't want to get my ass handed to me by, like, a fucking 22-year-old MMA guy. But I do know how to fight very dirty, and I do know how to stop people from hurting me.
Yeah.
Which I learned one of the best moves, and this is for anybody out there listening, if you're getting bullied or if a fight is inevitable between you and a guy that you are pretty sure or that you know is going to fucking be able to beat you up, is to break his leg by putting all your weight on the side of his knee. Yeah. And that'll stop anybody. I don't care. Or on the front of their knee. Just basically break their leg like a fucking 2x4. And that'll stop anybody from hurting you. Don't do that to start a fight, though. That's only if a guy is picking on you and your girlfriend and you don't have a way out. Just say, hey, man. Start talking to him like you're trying to talk sense into him, and then jump on his knee from the front and break it backwards, and he'll scream like a lady and fall down. Wow. And then you can leave. Yeah. Another one is to, I mean, this is a little more, you have to be, this takes a little more skill, but you can break people's collarbones very easily. Collarbones break very easily. And that's also a way, if somebody is like getting right up in your face, just like hammer down on their collarbones as hard as you can. And you'll probably break at least one of them, and they won't be able to lift that arm.
Damn. Brendon Walsh, MMA expert, breaking it down.
Well, that's not MMA. That's survival in my childhood.
Yeah, I think that would actually be frowned upon in the octagon, yes?
I don't think you're allowed to break people's collarbones on purpose.
Does Los Angeles suck right now? What are you going through with this lockdown COVID situation, and why are you still there? What the hell?
Well, I mean, it's very expensive to move. I just had a kid. It's complicated. Like, I'm not just a guy.
Yeah.
I can't just hop in my car and drive to fucking New Mexico.
Or Austin, like they're all doing.
Yeah, which I lived in Austin for over 10 years.
Yeah, you were the OG of Austin.
Yeah. And we've talked about moving back there. That's just, it's more affordable, and there's, I know a lot of people there outside of the people who've been moving there.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. LA sucks. I mean, it's full of fucking turds and snakes, and it's I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's fine. I'm doing fine, but I don't think I want to live here anymore. But it's going to take, money, and there's a lot of things. Like, once you're fucking living in a place, it's hard to fucking pick up and move. And it's by, I mean, the rent I pay is outstanding.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Huh?
I said I can imagine. Like, we just left New York in last November because we were paying, a ridiculous amount of money to live in a city that was rising in crime. You couldn't go anywhere. My job got shut down because I worked at a school, and they just now opened back up. So it's like all these big cities, COVID has like destroyed them, I would say, and it's fucking terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, yeah, it's tough out here. I mean, we pay a crazy amount of rent we have a nice place, but now with the new baby, we need a bigger place, and I just can't afford a bigger place here in an area that I want to live in. And in Austin, we can get a much bigger place for cheaper than what we pay now. And they've proven, everything can be done over Zoom at this point, which it proves, which is the only reason anybody moves here.
Right.
Is because, you take meetings before you move to Los Angeles. Like, you make trips here and you have meetings with people, and they're like, give us a call when you move here. And then you move here and you just do never ending more meetings where you're driving across town. It takes half your fucking day.
Yeah.
To drive from Los Feliz to fucking, Santa Monica to meet with somebody from Spike TV. And now it's like, oh, we could have just done this over the phone, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and even writers' rooms, like, there's a writing job that I'm, I don't even know if I'm going to try to get it, but it's like all these writers' rooms are over Zoom. So it's like, well, I can be wherever the fuck I want and pay literally $20,000 a year less in rent.
Yeah. Yeah, the one good thing from COVID is maybe pulling back the curtain on how you don't really have to be anywhere. Just fucking be good at whatever you're doing and hop on Zoom.
Yeah, technology's there. And you know what? Every place is, unless you're, Austin to LA or Oregon or Washington to LA, it's a few hours flight. Right. Like, if you really have to be here, you can be here. Yeah.
Have you gotten the vaccine yet?
No, I'm not too wound up about it. But also, Amanda's breastfeeding, so she's not getting it, because of that. So I'm not, maybe if we didn't have a newborn and she wasn't breastfeeding, we'd be like, oh yeah, let's go get it. Because that's the other thing. Like, everybody out here has this like way they're gaming the system where they're like, I found out a way you could get it when you're not supposed to get it. And I'm like, I'm fine. I don't think I'm going to die of COVID anytime soon.
Right.
I don't need to go fucking skip the line for, just because I can. That's all that LA is. It's like, oh, I figured out a way to skip the line. Like, everything has a VIP option,
Yeah.
Like, every concert, every show, everything you go to is like, for an extra $100, you get the VIP treatment. You get a valet. Like, there's valets everywhere. At the fucking Sizzler, there's a fucking valet. So that's all, that's all LA is like, I know, I know a way to fucking get ahead of everybody beneath me. So I don't even want to play into that. And I don't care. Like, I'm not going to die of COVID.
Yeah, I don't think most people will. It's an actual statistic and a percentage, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer, and I'm not a COVID denier, but also, I'm just kind of, I went to a bar the other day.
Would it be that big of a fucking pandemic if you didn't know about it from the news?
True.
I mean, we don't know. Like, I mean, and this is not to get into a whole thing, but Los Angeles has maybe the biggest homeless population in the country. When COVID was at its peak, don't you think the streets would be littered with dead homeless people?
Right, with terrible immune systems,
hand washing, mask wearing motherfuckers ever invented. And the homeless population is thriving here.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Like, they have, because they stopped, at least for a period, there's something going on at Echo Park Lake now where, I don't know, cops are trying to run homeless people out of it, and the whole community's rallying behind the homeless people they don't even want to be near. But they stopped, I guess, busting up homeless encampments when COVID first started.
Yeah.
And there's like literal, I mean, there are places that I drive past, homeless, self-made shelters. Then I'm like, you know what? That doesn't seem that bad. Like, that guy has, I mean, they've really upped their fucking homeless game here. But they have like plywood, like guys have like put together like, where I'm like, that's like the size of a nice trailer and they're right on the lake.
Yeah.
like, that's not that bad. He's got bikes. They have like a kitchen area I can see. Like, the homeless population's thriving here. And I'm like, don't you think there should have been at least like a handful of people dead in the streets?
Right, like a mass exodus of the homeless population just on the highway or wherever.
Well, isn't the homeless population the canary in the coal mine? Like,
that's what I was thinking about Texas too. Whenever Texas lifted the mask mandate, I was like, okay, let's see how Texas does. I haven't seen anything.
That's fine. Well, there's nothing. Well, there's just a thing like on the Associated Press where it was like it compared Florida to California, and the numbers are the same. Everything's the same. Like, lockdowns, masks or not, everybody's going to get sick the same way they get sick. Like, you lock people down, but even like the lockdowns here, we're like, oh, every small business has to go under, but you can still go to fucking Walmart or the grocery store.
Yeah.
You wear your stupid mask all you want, but people, like, the numbers aren't, well, now this is veering off into, I don't want to get into a whole.
You're gonna get me pulled. You're gonna be
a whole thing.
You're gonna get me pulled from YouTube like my last episode. I had another comedian on. He was going in on Bill Gates and how all this was, orchestrated and how there's a big plan behind it. And YouTube pulled my shit. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
I have 20 listeners. What the hell are you talking about here?
Well, that's weird. Really, you only have 20 listeners?
Well, I mean,
I mean, the whole Bill Gates thing too is like, I mean, everything's like a loaded fucking, like, just saying the name Bill Gates is loaded now because it's like, oh, here we go. Yeah. Here comes an Alex Jonesy type statement. Yeah. But also, and like, I'm just playing a guy who, let's just say this is a movie. And there's a world-class pedophile who's exposed that has like a bunch of world leaders on his fucking jet going to his fucking secret island full of fucking teenage girls jacking people off.
Sounds good. I mean, yeah.
Let's say that happens, right? Let's say there's a guy that has a secret island full of teenage girls jacking people off. And on his plane, is a guy named Bill Gates, a guy named Bill Clinton, a prince. And that guy gets locked up, the island guy. And then he commits suicide under suicide watch, which is impossible.
Yeah.
Commit suicide when you're under suicide watch in a federal prison. There's no videotape of it. Then, shortly after that, there's a worldwide pandemic to distract everybody from this fucking pedophile island, it's called. And this guy Bill Gates that everybody's vilifying was on that plane a handful of times. Did business with this pedophile guy, even after he knew what he was up to. You don't think, I mean, just the fact that, like, if you're watching a movie, everybody likes to compare things to movies. But if you're watching a movie, wouldn't you be like, come on?
Yeah, this
I
premise.
already see how this is going to end.
Yeah, this premise is stale and lazy, said this reviewer.
Yes. And the fact that, like, and I don't claim to know what's going on anywhere, but I have pretty good instincts. I have a very good bullshit detector. And when something seems off, I'm 100% right all the time. And something just, something's off. And I'm not saying that, the mask mandate is specifically for Jeffrey Epstein so he can wear a mask and walk around the world undetected.
Wow.
Because 100% not dead. I will go on the record and say that, and I would bet my life on it.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein is not dead at all. He is alive and well.
And he's banging 14-year-olds as we speak.
What's that?
He's banging 14-year-olds as we speak.
I mean, who knows what he's up to? This podcast took a turn for the worse.
I'm sorry.
Because, you just can't even talk about it. And you know what? I'm joking.
Yeah, it's all jokes. This is a comedy podcast.
Everything I said as a joke is like, come on, grow up. Like, people are just like, this is impossible. It's like, no, you have to, realize that things are possible.
Yeah. All right, last question before we get pulled from YouTube. What happens when we die, Brendon Walsh?
I don't know. I think it's, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big believer in the simulation theory, that I feel like everything we're experiencing now is an echo from something that's already happened. Or I don't know. I feel like it's not, I don't think anything's real.
Okay.
Let's put that out there too. No, I mean, I'm completely being facetious with all this stuff. But by saying all this stuff is it's not that crazy. I mean, it's all labeled as crazy, but nobody knows. Nobody knows about Jeffrey Epstein I mean, the fact that he committed suicide and it's all the cameras broke and whatever, that's over. Now there's a pandemic. I mean, that's silly. If it wasn't but I'm just saying it as a joke. And I'm also saying that I don't know what the fuck life is. None of us do. And there are scientific findings that we are in a simulation.
Yeah. That's kind of troubling. That's a troubling note to go out on.
Well, I mean, it's what you make of it. Because it could be troubling, which is existentially is troubling. But also, we're still here. We still have it. We still have possibilities to do whatever you want. You still have a modicum of control over yourself and what your choices are. So celebrate that and try and do what you can with that. Like try to have, fun with that, with your kids. And, I hate it when people bring up kids.
Well,
it's such a cop out.
You have two now. So you're.
Yeah. No. I mean, I know. And I'm into my kids. One of them more than the other.
Yeah, well, you don't really know the second one that much.
I don't really the other guy.
Yeah. Could be a douche. We don't know.
Like I experienced so much joy with playing with my daughter. And that is like that's a real thing for me right now. Whether or not it's real or not, like whatever the definition of real is that's fine, but it really brings me a lot of joy. So do that. Like do whatever, like if you want to be crazy and have fun and there's still a certain amount of control you have over your destiny and how you live your day to day. So I guess just celebrate that, because I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling that I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling that, there is no real, I mean, I've been thinking, because I've had some friends die this year and kill themselves and shit. And I wonder if this is all bullshit. Like, this is all bullshit. And when you die, that part is better than this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is just a trap where it's like, hey, don't kill yourself. Hey, don't die. Hey, fear death. But it's like death is like actually an awakening into something else.
God damn, that's the most hopeful thing I can cling on to. That is, I obsess about death way too much. I took mushrooms back in the day, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it ever since. So that's a very salient point that I think I can wrap my head around and be hopeful for.
Well, I think everything else is a trick, like we're being tricked at every corner. And, so maybe this whole life and death thing is fucking bullshit too. Like, I mean, this is fine. We're here and there's happiness and joy and sadness, but maybe the next thing is better.
Right.
And maybe the only way you get there is by fucking croaking.
Hopefully so.
But don't discount, like, I'm not saying rush there. Don't take the fucking express lane.
Yeah.
Figure out what you can do here in the meantime. Have fun, make yourself laugh. Do whatever the fuck makes you happy. Like George Clooney's probably happy. Try to fucking be as close to George Clooney as you can. And then, when you die. But I do feel like a lot of people that like die at like 100 or whatever, and they're fucking incontinent. All their friends are dead. Their family doesn't care about them anymore. You're just a fucking burden to everybody.
Yeah, if I can't get up and walk myself to the bathroom, I don't want to live here in this big blue marble anymore.
Well, it's easy to say no.
True. As long as I can still play PlayStation, I'll stay.
I mean, still, I feel like it's like, yeah, it's easy to say, but even if you're 100 and nothing works, you're probably still going to be like fucking scared to die.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, it's fucking, it's scary. You don't know what's going to happen. But it's like, it's like when you take mushrooms or LSD and like before it kicks in and it's ramping up, you're like, oh my God, I don't know where I'm going. And then you get there and you're like, holy shit, this is fucking holy shit. I mean, I feel like I'd like to think that's what death is.
Yeah.
That it's like we are on the precipice of like an amazing mushroom trip.
Damn. I hope so, man. I hope so. You've talked me into it. I'm a Brendon
We'll
Walsh.
see. Well, don't commit suicide.
No.
That's what...
Man, thank you so much for being on the show. I reached out just with, I didn't even know, like I said, about your tweet. I was just like, so, I didn't give a fuck. I was like, if he doesn't answer me, it doesn't matter. But the fact that you got back to me, you came on, it's just great. And I listen to everything you do. I love you, bro. And I feel like I know you, even though we only met once and you don't even remember it. Thanks a lot. But, hey, man, I really appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, that was fun. Thanks. Tell everybody to listen to the World Record Podcast and join the Patreon.
The World Record Podcast is on all, streaming devices, iTunes. That's where I listen to it. And if you're going to be, one of these wealthy fucks out there, throw a little scratch to my man B-Man and help him feed his babies.
And the YouTube channel, the videos are all up there.
Yeah, the videos, that's where it's at. That's where it's at, for sure. Oh, shit. Last thing. If you called Melissa Villaseñor right now, would she answer?
Probably not.
God damn, she blew up like that? She's like, stardom and everything?
No, she's fine. I mean, I could try, but I don't want to.
No, I'm not. I wasn't suggesting you did it on the show, but if...
She might. If I called her, she might. I mean, there's a 50-50 chance.
How weird is it to see her up there on SNL?
I mean, it's the way it goes.
Yeah, I just remember
not that weird. I mean, I'm surrounded by people trying to do shit like that. So when people succeed at it, it's like, it's not like she was asleep in a sewer. And now I'm like, wait a minute, that woman that I just shit on is on TV? It's like, no, she was like on the path to doing that. So It's not that crazy.
Well, I just remember her, reading her diary entries on y'all's Bone Zone, like the final years. And then all of a sudden I'm on SNL looking, and all of a sudden she pops up. I'm like, what? That's the girl from the Bone Zone. When they announced
that she was on SNL, they used a photo of her wearing a Bone Zone t-shirt.
Oh, shit. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's
And she was on the World Record Podcast and read some of her diary, too.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, I have to go back and listen to that one. But damn. I was
do your homework, son.
I'm sorry, bro. I'm I'm knee deep in all your back episodes.
Yeah.
Brendon.
Right. Well, I got to go. I got other work to do. It's been a long time.
Yeah, go get on your next podcast that you have to fulfill. And thank you, man. Have a great day.
All right, you too, buddy.
And until next time, don't die.